Hello, good morning, good evening to everybody, and welcome to the second event to celebrate the power of women and this special day. So we will have some external guests and some other Comau women talking about their experiences and some very interesting topic today. First of all, I would like to go through the agenda to show you a little bit the organization of this hour together. So there will be the welcome that I'm already doing now for you all. Then some remarks from our CEO, Pietro Gorrier. Then we will have a round table that will be led by Simona Mariani, our General Counsel, with our external guest, Eugenia Famiglietti, and also the Professor Silvia that will participate to this roundtable. Then there will be a video messaging from our Head of Human Resources, Livio Milano. And at the end, there will be a conversation with our Comau representative to talk about the presence of women in the company and how this cooperation between men and women can really thrive at the best success of the company. There will be the final remarks, again, from our CEO, and at the end, I will be ready to take some Q&A questions from you all. And please do a lot of questions because that make the intervention even more interesting. So without any kind of hesitation, so please, Pietro, the ball is on your table.
Good morning, at least here in Michigan. Good evening in China, and good afternoon in Europe. And obviously, thank you for joining this call and the meeting. It's really a pleasure for me to open the meeting. Hopefully, one day it will be a woman to open the meeting as the CEO of Comau. I think we are all working hard to make that possible. Let me start first of all to welcome Professor Silvia Bodoardo, who's a professor of the Politecnico di Torino. We have a lot of collaboration with several universities and colleges, and obviously the Politecnico of Torino is very close to us, has been since a long time ago. And Eugenia Famiglietti, the corporate senior strategy manager at Baker Hughes, company that we know very well. Hopefully in future we will also, actually we did already some business with them, and it's a pleasure to have them with us to share their experiences. I think the title is about the impact of women in science, technology and automation, but I would say that I'm more interested in the impact that women has in Comau. Is a moment, and by the way, is part in the world at the moment, talking about diversity, inclusion, I think is even more important than it was in the past. But more importantly, I think we all know that diversity, every type of diversity, is an incredible strength of organizations and companies. Every type of diversity. Today we celebrate the gender diversity, but I would extend that to everyone. We live in a society where diversity is the foundation of our societies, and we can't have companies that are not mirroring that diversity that we have in the field that becomes the diversity of our customers, the diversity of our societies. So extremely, it's always a moment, although we don't know exactly why we are celebrating on March the 4th rather than March the 8th, but I'm sure that the Politburo that is organizing the meeting has some reason for that. Big thank you also to those that have been organizing the meeting, to Stefania, Simona, Livio, but I will say everyone behind the organization of the meeting. You've heard the ICT that was kind of managing microphones and streaming, and thank you for that. Later, we will have Christina and Anne-May, Michele and Giulio that will talk about their experience when it comes to diversity, and it will be interesting to listen. But I think the most important part of the meeting will be, as usually, the Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to ask whatever question to every one of the people that are in this meeting and in the panel. Comau has a strong history of embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you think about Comau itself, it's a diverse company. Comau was created in 1973, putting together a number of companies with different backgrounds. And the project that kind of blended together the company was the building of the first big automotive factory in Russia. Now, moment is interesting that we talk about Russia today. But so it was since the beginning. The company was obviously was not necessarily gender diversity. I suppose that in 1973 we didn't have a lot of women working into industrial automation, but has a diverse origin of companies together coming from different places that created what it is today, Comau. And that at that point, it was already seen as a big advantage, a big competitive strength, having the diversity of different companies, different cultures coming together. Although I would say probably most of them, they were from the area around Turin, so where I come from. So, but again, as I said, diversity is a big competitive advantage. I'm very happy, although it's just a little step, first step that we have received recently the gender equality certification in Italy. I'm not a big fan of certification. I mean, certifications are sometimes bureaucratic events, but at least it is a starting point of an entity that has observed Comau and understood that, I mean, there is gender equality in what we do in our policies and in what we do. At the end of the day, the only real final certification, if you like, will be when every room will be filled by an equal number of women and men. That is what is happening in society. And I'm sure that it will happen. We start seeing a lot more women in our meetings, and not only, let me say, in areas where traditionally there is a higher presence of women, like administration or HR, but also technical. I was talking, there are a lot of technical people here, from, and that's, I'm really proud of that, and I think something that we need to keep on pursuing. We have, I don't like certification, I don't like necessarily projects, but we need to have projects. So we have created recently a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, because you don't improve something that you don't measure. That is something that all the technical people here in the room know very well. So we are trying to have some KPIs, some metrics to understand if we are progressing in giving access to everyone to different roles, higher role, more important role. And Livio will talk later about that. One of the areas that is extremely important, and I really ask everyone, we are going through to participate. We are going through an important process inside Comau of upskilling and reskilling people. Technology is changing. I would say there is a lot of uncertainty of what is going to be the future of automotive. And although we don't want to remain as a company only focused on automotive. Automotive will be a big part of our future, and so the need of upskilling and reskilling of resources is very important, and I really encourage everyone to up, and if you have interest and opportunities, please don't hesitate. Speaking about, and I want to open just a couple of comments about Comau today. Comau is in a very transformational phase. As you know, December last year, we completed the spin-off of Stellantis. Stellantis is still one of our shareholders, but they don't have any longer the control. And that allows us to kind of chart our path forward, particularly when it comes to diversification to other fields and other sectors. And the reason why we do that is because automation is one of the fastest growing industries, and is one of the fastest growing industry, particularly outside automotive. Automotive is already very automatized. Automotive customers are, let me say, struggling with the technological transition, and it becomes every day more difficult to win projects with automotive at competitive prices. And so there are spaces outside automotive where we can use our skills, our know-how. And that will give another opportunity to people to expand beyond your current know-how and your current scope. Is another opportunity for creating diversity. We will potentially do some inorganic operations, if possible, to buy companies that can complement our technology. So it will create another opportunity for Comau to become more diverse, and hopefully it will give even more opportunities to women to expand beyond what we are doing today. One final comment. I was recently listening to an interview to the president of the European Union Council, and someone was asking how she can cope with being a mother and obviously becoming one of the most relevant figures in Europe, whatever we can think about Europe at the moment. So I think we are in a moment of general confusion everywhere in terms of when it comes to political decision. And he gave an answer that is, she has 7 kids. I said, if I can manage 7 kids at home, it's not a big problem to deal with all the politicians of Europe. So it's maybe a little bit of a low-level joke, but I really believe that the strength of women in the resilience, also because we need to be fair. I mean, for several years in the past, having a career, progressing in a company, required a resilience for women, and dealing with all the things that you have to deal with the family, and I really think that there is an incredible opportunity to make Comau a stronger company. You have the entire commitment of, and today he cannot be here, our chairman Alessandro Nasi, but obviously he sends the same. He would like to send the same message. I mean, feel free to progress and to make an impact, because you are making impact every time. And I'm really happy to be here with you today, and looking forward for what we will hear in the next hour. So thank you, and back to you, Stefania and Simona.
Thank you, Pietro. So coming back to my side, so you can recognize that I'm very full of emotion today, because this is a day that personally I really feel a lot. Also because yesterday I decided also to share a personal story, because sometimes I believe that if we share stories, maybe they can be interesting than just talking theoretically. So, and so this is why I forgot the name of Professoressa Bodoardo, to whom I was discussing until a few minutes ago, and so I apologize. But this is connected to the emotions. So coming to today, so I would like, just because, you know, as a marketeer, I like always to look for stories or for a little bit of storytelling. So you can pardon, but this is part of my marketeer DNA more than my engineering DNA. So I would like to start from two sentences, one from the scientist Rita Levi-Montalcini, and the other one from the Secretary General of the United Nations, that is Antonio Gutierrez. Ms. Montalcini said, women had always had to fight doubly, and this is something that is also connected to what Pietro was saying a few minutes before. They have always had to carry two burdens, the private one and the social one. And women are the backbone of societies, because if you think about caregivers, I know that there are a lot of men that now are taking care about families, about kids, about family needs. But if you see statistics, still a lot of caregiving is provided directly by women. And this can be a double burden if you think about also professional needs and professional growth. The other side, from Antonio Gutierrez, we read, today only 1 in 3 engineering researchers in the world is a woman. Structural and social barriers prevent women and girls from entering and progressing in science. The inequalities is depriving our world of enormous untapped talent and innovation opportunities. We need women's perspective to make sure that science and technology works for everyone. Another example, because I was discussing some days ago to a scientist that is working in the pharma industry. And for instance, a lot of the tests done directly on medicine and drugs is done for 80% on men. And so there are a lot of side effects that affect women that are still unknown or not prevented, because the testing procedures are not modeled around women that has different way of working, even physically. So this is a witness on the fact that mixing up knowledges, mixing up backgrounds, mixing up point of views always bring to new ideas and to better innovation. I also would like to give you other example of some women that contribute to the modern era, are all women in the so-called STEM environment. I selected and picked very few names. I call them hidden figures, because most of these women are connected with a lot of great inventions, but most of the names of these women are basically unknown. So for instance, we start from Hypatia, that was a very famous mathematician and pagan philosopher that around the 4th century before Christ, she was killed by the so-called believers in God that thought that she was against any kind of religious belief at that time. Then we have an Italian, Maria Gaetana Agnesi, during the 18th century, and she published for the first time a sort of compendium, a comprehensive book, mixing up basic principles of modern algebra and analytical geometry. And still these studies are at the basics of our mathematical studies at the university as today. Then we have Ada Lovelace, that is one of the preferred women of my twin kids, twin girls, because she read the story about her and they are very passionate. And basically, she was the first one who brought an algorithm to be applied for a processor. So maybe today we talk about Bell, but no one, or at least very few people, talk about Ada Lovelace, because without her, the basic language for computers, maybe would not exist. Other three examples, so Miss Benerito, and she did the two. From one side, she invented a new kind of process to produce a more resistant and better cotton fiber. That was very important, especially after the Second World War left in famine and in a lot of difficulties the United States. And at the same time, she was the inventor or a new methodology that now permit to do intravenous feeding. And it is still the method that is utilized today in the hospital. Other two examples, Edith Clark, that was an electrical engineer, a pioneer of electrical engineering, when women were not allowed in this faculty during the 20th century. She succeeded really to show the role of women in STEM for the first time. Last but not least, Katherine Johnson, and she was a physicist, mathematician, engineer, and she was a pioneer in the aerospace industry. Basically, the mission of Apollo are connected with the calculation that she did, and she's also to the processes of modern computers, because she was among the first one to apply modern computers in this kind of calculation that until then were made manual by a lot of women. Why I wanted to, and there are many others, I would say, why I wanted to open with this, because we recognize that many notable women have a very important place in our modern achievement, but sometimes we do not know their names. So our role, both of men and women, is to help women really to come out, no, and fight to be recognized. Many of them did that by themselves. Others succeeded through mentorship, and so this is a concept that I always stress out: the importance of having mentors, people that really help the others to succeed and really to develop their own talents. I am very grateful because in my past, I had a great mentor. I would like to remind him because he's no more among us since last year. Great person. He taught me a lot of things during my professional life. He was a former CEO of a company in the past. And what I appreciated is that he always accompanied me, observing what I was doing well, and praising that, underlining that, especially on the table where I was not present, and also defending my work when I was not present, and always underlining with me directly what I could improve, teaching me to take feedbacks as always a very precious gift that is never to be given for granted. Also in my past, I also would like to nominate some bad examples of mentors that can happen, because this is, everybody can meet very good mentors, a very good example of leadership, but also bad example of leadership, honestly. And honestly, there is always an opportunity to learn from everybody. So in the past, I met this leader, I would call it leader, that taught me one time that my level of leadership was very low. I would never succeeded to become a people leader because I had the assistant syndrome. Why? Because I like really to solve problems and really to solve minimum problems, because according to me, everything was contributing to move things forward. I took this observation with me, and a part of me also fought a lot to fight this conviction that I was not a good leader. And but I think this is an example how good mentorship can really help us to grow a lot. But even some bad examples can teach us to believe in our means. Not, I would say, not one single judgment can change the way we are looking at ourselves. but give us really the belief and the strength to fight for what we think is important, especially professionally, and also to enrich us, because that words push me a lot to improve myself, to go beyond my limits, to really look at the details even more, to learn more and continuously. So this is the end of my intervention. I do hope that was a little bit inspiring. I share with you something very personal, honestly. So now I pass the baton to Simona.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefania. Thank you for inviting me. I think that I'm falling into the stereotype of lawyers because both Pietro, our CEO, and you, our CMO, are very optimistic and positive. I'm a lawyer. I'm a little bit more conservative, if not pessimistic. So I want to show you some numbers because I recently read the gender report published by INS for our colleagues in US. INS is the National Institute for Social Security. And this gender report is painting a quite concerning picture because they told us that the female employment rate now in Italy is only 52.5%, and is significantly lower than men. Also, the gender pay gap, and this is valid for Italy, but also for US, remains at 20%. So we are, as women, we are paid at least 20% less than men. Also, despite higher education levels, because we all know that, women are underrepresented in managerial positions. So just only 21% of managers are women, and only 32.4% of middle managers are women. There is a data that really shocked me a little bit, because women receive also a significantly lower pension than men, because we receive 48% less than men as pension. Also, this is the last dark data that I'm gonna give you. If we proceed at the current pace to achieve global gender equality, take over. It's just to, you know, to stress what I'm saying. To reach gender equality, it will take over a century, 133 years. So I think that we have to speed up. We have to work all together to fill the gaps and to, you know, change the workplace, because we are here in Comau, but also to change the education, the culture, the situation within our families, in order to reach this gender equality. We need a lot in terms of support, because when women, young girls start looking at the corporate world, I think that we are all strong and optimistic and positive, but we have to keep in mind that 80% of women at a certain point in their career will become mother, and because of that we need support within the workplace and outside the workplace. So multiple factors that we need to work on, but also, as Stefania was saying before, we need also lots of role models. Not every girl will become a CEO. There are a lot of women that want to become, for example, chef. Yesterday I was thinking about that, but also watching TV, most of the famous chefs are men. I mean, even in the kitchen, we have role models that are male role model. So I think that we need really many different role models. Today we have two spectacular women in two different fields. One is a professor at the Politecnico of Torino, which is one of the top-ranked university in Europe for engineering and scientific subject. Silvia Bodoardo. She's also collaborating with Comau on various battery projects. And then we have Eugenia Famiglietti, which she's a corporate senior strategy manager at Becker Hughes. She's an expert in business transformation. She has more than 16 years experience in strategic consulting, strategic marketing, and business development. So I think that in your different fields, you're really a model and yes, people that we have to look at. Some question for them. The first one is for you, about your background. How come that you become a professor at a young age? Because I look at your CV.
Thank you for inviting me and give me this opportunity, and I'm very proud to be here in Comau also. And okay, I started simply because I was in love with the scientific topics, and so I decided to take a scientific university. I'm a chemist, and then as soon as I finished with writing the thesis, I appreciated the work in the research field. And I got this opportunity to be in contact with Politecnico, and so I started a PhD on engineering, materials engineering, and you know, things are working this way. And so at the end, I really got the opportunity to start working as a permanent staff in Politecnico. Let me add that at the time, before starting a permanent position, I worked at school as professor at school. Because to get the opportunity to get a salary practically, because research is not well paid, and you cannot wait for a long time waiting for a position with no salary. And so I started this time, and when I decided to leave my work as professor at school and going to work as a researcher at university, my father told me, why? If you stay at school, that's the perfect job for a woman. And I'm speaking about more than 30 years ago. The life was different, the landscape around was different, but still this is a sign of what people are feeling about the position for when jobs for women and jobs for men. So that's and then I continue my work. I understood that was very important to start opening the doors of university and not being always in my lab with a few people. And so we decided to go at Brussels and starting working with the European Commission. I did a lot of activities with Europe funding, let me say, some projects that are covering the whole field in the field of battery, because the batteries is my field. And so I became a professor on time. This took a lot of time. So let me add that even if I got a lot of project funded, a lot of money, a very big group, because we are the biggest group in Italy in the field of batteries at the university, of course. Still, I remained as a researcher, so I couldn't arrive to the final as full professor at the end of my career. And this is related to the fact that I'm living in a technical university, where even if, let me say, we are more open than many other, let me say, companies maybe, but still women are reaching, they are graduated before than men commonly also with higher degree values. But then when they are proceeding in the career, this is going much slower and slower. And so the same was for me, because I'm full professor since 5-6 years. Okay. And so at the end of my story, I have exactly the same salary of any other full professor with the same degree, but when I will be retired, you will have but still I'm very happy to get the opportunity to work with a lot of people in Europe and share let me say, knowledge and different point of views. And that's great also because we are bringing this in our group.
Thank you. And yeah, also Eugenia.
Okay, so first of all, thanks to Comau for this event. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks to Stefania. Actually, she was my boss until 1 year ago, and I miss her a lot. Dealing with me, I am not only corporate senior strategy manager, but I am even proud to say that I am founder and president of Leadership and Empowering Women in Business Alumni Club for Polymegism, founded 2 years ago. Actually, I started my career right after the graduation. I am an economist, not engineer, but in the scientific field, we can say. I started my career in a think tank dedicated to energy markets. I grew up a lot in that position, from single contributor to coordinator, scientific coordinator for a lot of projects. And that company was in touch with the high-level energy companies, ministry, industrial unions. And thanks to that, I was granted and could teach at the University of Basilicata as adjunct professor oil and gas fiscal regimes in 2016. And then I made a big shift in 2017, where I got out from that think tank and started working on strategic consulting. Actually, I was supposed to work in strategic consulting for energy, but they sent me to telecommunications. So I started working assessing processes in telecommunications that were so far from my knowledge, but actually I learned a lot. And then in 2018, I made another shift. And actually, for the first time, I entered a company. I left the consultancy, and that was a kind of a milestone for me in terms of even understanding which was the gender topic. Because in consultancy, there are a lot of women at whatever level. While entering a company, and I was in Caterpillar dealers for Southern Europe in the CEO team for leading business development and strategic marketing activities. And I found that this was an international group, and it was really a good group. But actually, in Italy, there was one executive director and 99 executive director men, 1 woman. So I was understanding that there was a kind of topic. And then at that period, I started my MBA. And and we all know that MBA is a kind of instrument that people do to maybe proceed in their career. For me, it was crucial because I had never seen a company from the inside, and I had to learn a lot, and I like learning. And we were 55 people, 7 women, and everyone else was men. Out of the men, everyone had kids and families. The women didn't have it all.
Yeah.
So I understood that there was even a gap in terms of which is the burden and that goes on the shoulders of a woman and on the shoulder of a man. So in this direction, we started talking with the Polymegism, and we defined and decided to found this DNI type of club, alumni club, that is more dedicated to empowerment in business than other type of diversity topics. And I'm proud to say that today we count 400 people. It's the second community for Polymegism. And what we do is we do events. We try to foster empowerment. We try to raise topics and to get together and bring leadership models. We talked about, we make events, and we've been talking about women entrepreneurship. They were raising a lot of interesting things, like one entrepreneur entering a bank asking for the money for her business, and the banker asking, "What does your husband think about it?" And it was, oh my God! so these kind of things that we do is really getting together, trying to foster empowerment, talk, rise topics, and get networking, and start building even women network. But not only, because without the men, no women will succeed ever.
Of course. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
I completely agree. Silvia, I think that you said the university some probably 20 years ago, and I think that at the Faculty of Engineering there were just a few girls. How's changing? What's the
Yes,
situation
this
now?
is something in which that there are some changes, of course. In Politecnico of Torino, for example, we have a group that we call Poliwo, that stands for Politecnico Women.
Okay.
That's a group of people studying and deciding, and there's a lot of push in new equality politics that are, of course, raised, that are based on diversity, not only for sure gender equality and so on. More women are approaching engineering. Again, there are differences between the topics. For example, in biotechnology, there's a bigger number of female students than, for example, in mechanical engineering, just to say. And so still there are some walls to push and break remaining. For sure, we need to tell these people and the families that still there are some concern, like when you are going to decide what could be your future, many times families are saying, think about it. And the same never happened for a man. If you have a boy instead of a girl, as you always say, okay, a man can do everything he wants. For a woman, say, let's consider that maybe you will get a more difficult career for the future. And also, if you will get a family, this may be more on your shoulders than others. And so this passes through us, also as mothers and fathers, of course, giving inputs at home, giving examples and models. Because if still we continue as mother to cook all evenings instead of asking to our husbands or fathers of our sons to do that, and we are the one taking care of to organize everything at home, so that the day after everything works, all bags for kids are ready to go to school and so on. This remains, it remains in DNA. So maybe we have also to change our mindset in order to make things happen. For sure, role models are very important. Wording is very important, in my opinion, too, because as we are speaking in English, there's no difference in gender. But for example, I posted once, a little bit more than 2 years ago, I became a professoressa. That's in Italian, the most of you can understand is we have we have different names for men and female, and until 2 years ago I was only professore, and I have my card written professore and not professoressa, so I had the male gender and not the female one. And so I posted it on LinkedIn, and many people congratulated with me, but said I didn't do any change in my career, but simply finally I could read on Politecnico portal that I am a woman. And this was incredible for a lot of people out of Italy. But even if it's still a word, if you in Italian in particular, if you speak about the professoressa, so the female professor, you are thinking at professor at higher school, high school mainly. But professor are the one teaching at the university. So why? Because we always call us a professor the male name instead of female. And this is an example. As another stupid one, I report it because just to transfer when I changed this way of thinking, it was once that at my house came some friends with a dog. My smaller kids was playing with him, and our friend said that she's a female, and started laughing, said, a dog can be a female, because we always call it, we are calling dogs cane in Italian, and even if they are female or male, and he couldn't imagine, it was a very small one, it was 3 years old, or maybe also less. He couldn't imagine that a dog can also be a female. So just to say that if we continue calling things at the male term, it's only a male. It can never be a female. So that's a stupid example. But at that time, I understood that this has a meaning, and this can be transferred also in how we approach and how we can in somehow change the mindset.
Yeah. In Italy, this is a topic. I don't know. Then it's gonna be interesting then to listen from our US colleagues, because also for my profession, I mean, until 10 years ago, there was just one word, avvocato, and now we are, of course, discussing about calling us avvocata or avvocatessa, and there are also many women that don't want to be called avvocata because it's an awful name. I think that behind, I mean, I think that don't exist awful words and beautiful words. I think that there's some cultural bias behind them, and we need to talk about that and to discuss that, because otherwise the situation won't change. Even in Geneva.
I also did that, just to add, I was vice president of EDISU, that is the entity for University Right of Studies in Piedmont, and 5 years ago, I started asking to change all the documents because they were referred only to male students. And now we have the double names, but it took a lot of time. A stupid example.
So Baker Hughes is a US company. So tell us something about the situation in your company on the, I think, I know that there are also female managers, but what do you think? How it's changing?
So we are an American company, and we all know, and maybe it was even mentioned, that things are changing in the world, unfortunately not in the direction that we would prefer them to go. But actually this company, at least what is now happening, is instead strengthening kind of D&I type of policies. So I need to say that that company had a strong D&I policy that maybe pushed for hiring women, and it was even debatable or debated by the people in the company, started looking at these women coming, saying, hey, she's hired only because she's a woman. And this is something that happens wherever. So then you need to demonstrate that you are really there, not because you're a woman, but because you have a value. And so I think that the environment I am in now is an open environment to diversity. I'm not too worried about the future, although I'm reading the newspapers, because now they are really strengthening the message around that the diversity and the open mindset that having a diverse environment gives to the company will be there and will be kept. We need to say that this is even a traditional company in the oil and gas that is trying to enter new segments and new businesses, and is pretty aware that is the diversification and a diverse environment can help them in open their mindset. So men, female, black, white, coming from whichever country. So in this direction, I think that this is a good environment to work in.
Okay, thanks. Silvia, because there are positive side, negative side, we are exploring both of them, but what about you? What gives you hope in the future? The young students?
Yes, young people, of course, they are the future, and this is clear. That's no problem. For example, I'm working a lot also in the field of education. Of course, I'm a professor, but also at European level, we need a lot of people ready to work in the field of batteries. And so, but we have no skilled people enough in this field. And so I'm also organizing some events for young scientists in Europe, where I founded together with the young scientists, that we call the Battery 2050 community of young scientists in my field, of course, where we are trying to have leadership that are not only led by men, but also by women. And in fact, now they will vote the referent person, because in next annual conference of Battery 2030, they will vote there. And the one that actually are taking really this job more are women. And this is also a side, let me say, part of the coin, because again, at the beginning of the career, men are more, let me say, focused on their curricula more than working for the community. And this is an added value that we have to think about. So women are commonly more proud, more ready to be open for everyone and somehow. So if we can combine this expertise, the one that really is more focused on himself, the one more focused on the community together, maybe we can really create and realize a more brilliant future in front. So it's, and just I want to conclude with a single question, and Pietro, do not, it's not for you, it's in general. Because the upper positions are always covered by men. And we have a lot of very high position covered by men, and a lot of issues in the in many companies. So why not to try with women, and see if even the future will be not good enough for everyone. So think about it. So the highest position are covered always by men, and we do not see so big advances in the economy and so on. So I keep my 5 cents.
And you? What gives you hope in the future?
I come in peace.
Now Pietro is.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Exactly, that's the point.
What gives you hope in the future?
So working with my community, I've been talking a lot in a dialogue across our generations. So we have started having, I think, I'm sure even here, Gen Z guys coming to our events, but even millennials like I am, and even Generation X. So it's a kind of a dialogue. And what is happening is that talking with Gen Z guys that are pretty younger, they, both men and women, don't seem to have this bias as we have. Yeah. So I think that, you know, like having small brothers or being the small brother of an older brother that already faces battles, and you can be granted by the motorcycle that you wanted, and instead your brother had to fight a lot. So I think that these Gen Z guys have a perspective that is pretty different and don't suffer like we are suffering for the battles, because at a certain point, we are here today, we're talking about it. And for them, that is really for granted, that this is unequal, and this is what needs to be changed. So my positive thought is that if we combine and really have dialogues, and we try to integrate their perspective in our perspective, I think that we can be really stronger in this direction, because as Stefania was saying, she's growing up to babies that for sure will be already taught not to have those biases. So I even at the beginning, AI, we all know that you were asking, draw a surgery, it was a man, draw a nurse, it was a woman. Now, if you ask the very same AI tool, he will, I did it 2 days ago, and he will draw a man and a woman being surgery, a man and a woman being a nurse. So I think that these biases are there, yes. Are we tackling them? Okay, so yeah, we are doing our job. So I hope that in less than 130 years,
so.
we will be able to have the same wages and the same positions and the same rights. So I think that the future can go better than it seems now.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Now the next session, we come back briefly to the agenda so that we make the point, please. Okay, so we have now the video message from Livio, our CHRO.
First of all, I want to thank Silvia and Eugenia for their contribution, and Simona and Stefania for inviting me to this event. Today, we celebrate the International Women's Day. The commitment for equal rights for women should continue all year round. By affirming the principle of equity and equality, we strongly support changes in a world where women still too often have to fight against discrimination and stereotypes that must be dismantled. It's now a fact that companies that value diversity win in efficiency and profitability. And having women in leadership position should be the norm, not the exception. And to do that, we have to foster equal skill, knowledge, and career opportunity within the company. Comau is part of this group of companies and is committed to constantly increase its effort on that. Indeed, today for us is also the opportunity to pay tribute to the contribution that Comau's women are making to the success of our company. Values guide us, but values must be supported by actions. We want to link our strategies with concrete action and tangible results. This year, for example, we obtained the gender equity certification in Italy. That's an important achievement. And we started with a pilot project that will be then extended to other countries. And this certification represents a starting point with which we have committed to pursuing measurable and concrete targets. And we have therefore launched several initiatives, including the adaptation of our recruiting and development process to enhance equal growth opportunity and greater female representation in the company, through the commitment to always include female candidates in the talent pool during all our selection process, both internal and external. We have involved our STEM women as ambassadors in school to present models that can be an inspiration for female students. We run engagement survey because we believe in the importance of listening. And every year, through a dedicated section, D&I, we identify areas for improvement through specific focus group. And we implemented continuous training to promote an inclusive and unbiased language. And we launched specific projects to support parenthood. And as you know, of course, we have established a well-defined process to report, investigate, and manage any episode of non-inclusiveness or discrimination. We know there is still a lot to do, and we know we need to move faster. But I can assure you of my full commitment and that of the entire HR community to build an equitable, inclusive, and stimulating work environment for everyone within Comau. And I want to close by extending my best wishes for a peaceful 8th of March to all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Livio. So it was a very interesting intervention. Now, before the final wrap up from Pietro, we still have 4 different interventions from 4 different Comau employees. 2 are here with us. Maybe I invite you, if you can, to switch. But we start from Christina Plummer from the operation in North America. Switch.
Okay, thank you. I'm very happy to be here today, surrounded by some of my colleagues, Pietro and Laerte, and all of you. I've had a very successful career, not only at Comau, but before I came here. And, you know, I really attribute that to my upbringing from my parents. My father was an engineer, and I'm also an engineer. But today I don't really work too much in the engineering field. So I started out that way, but have had numerous opportunities, not only here at Comau, but outside. And I attribute that to communication, which is one of the tools that I think really drives change. And it's being able to speak for what you are, you know, wanting, whether out of life, you know, whether it's professional or personal, but it starts with you. You really need to know what you want and then be able to communicate that to your boss, your mentor, your project team, your partner, your husband, your wife. And that's really how you're going to be successful. So I guess I'm more optimistic too than Simona. I have two young children, a son and a daughter, and I see the way that things are changing even in the schools. The Girl Scouts make derby cars now and do races. So you know, that was one of the things that my daughter and I did together, and her car beat my car. But empathy and you know, kindness and communication are the main things that are now taught in the elementary or primary schools in the US. And I can see the difference, you know, even amongst my son and his interactions with boys and girls. So I'm hopeful for the future. And again, I think it all starts with communication at home and in the workplace.
Thank you very much. And I have a question for you. So
Sure.
thank you for sharing your perspective on your career and on your personal point of view. When you think about Comau, so how do you see the cooperation between men and women? So how do you perceive that?
You know, all of my professional career, I've been in manufacturing. So I've been the only woman in a lot of situations, and it really takes everyone, men and women, and the cultural diversity too, that I think Comau brings is really important for diversity and change. And it really stems on that communication. You need to be able to speak openly amongst your teams and be open to difference of opinions. But you need to be a good listener too. And that's one of the primary things I think that has helped me to be successful, but that I see used amongst Comau too.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. So coming to the next intervention. So now passing through China, sorry, fast. So Han-Mei, what about you? So let us know something about you, your background, and also how you see your cooperation, the cooperation between men and women. So we are very curious also to know your point of view.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very glad to be here. And last year, I remember I was one of the audience online, and yeah, I really I really mentioned at that time that for women and men in one industrial field, that really, I have to say, not that hard, but a kind of the equal relationship in this kind of work mode. So at that time, I really think that this is a not easy job for women in the automation field. Okay, go back to the site and let me introduce myself. And I am Hamei Shen and from Powertrain Assembly in Shanghai, China, and have already worked for Comau for over 15 years. As an MES team leader, my mission is to empower Comau's product on customer trust, enhance the team competitive and cohesion, and create the value of the customer. Being a woman in industrial manufacturing comes with multiple challenges, I think. Nearly 90% of the people I encounter are male, such as team members, colleagues, clients, and suppliers. And I must admit, this is an environment I enjoy because of more rational thinking, direct communication prevail, and not having to worry about being gently refused. I think this is a joke, but in fact, women, regardless of the industry, have more missions and family responsibilities, which are detrimental to their career development. However, this environment brings many interesting aspects to my work. In my first year in Comau, after completing offline programming for a project, I needed to deploy the system at the customer site, carrying all required construction permits. Starting from the security checkpoint, I was repeatedly questioned throughout the day. Who are you? What's your purpose here? And I was repeatedly questioned at all that day and didn't remember how many times I answered. Every inquiry accompanied by looks of surprising and skepticism. Even today, this still occurs, but now I understand why. Many Chinese OEMs have reporting mechanism. For example, if an issue is not resolved within 10 minutes, maybe it'll be reported to the team leader. And then many operators will come to see, what are you doing? If the problem is not resolved within 20 minutes, maybe it's reported to the workshop director. And within 30 minutes, the senior management, the factual inquiry. By then, you feel like some flowers surrounded by people keeping asking you when it will be fixed. So once, due to a server failure, I needed to back up a massive database and to restore it to its original state on the other server. The data volume was enormous, but this is a small issue in the IT field. Just need time to resolve. But at that moment, I feel like a gladiator in the Roman Colosseum. If I failed, the audience eyes will slide through me like knives because they didn't believe that I can handle it. And their production tasks maybe never be completed, which would be a significant problem. So during the time of data baking up and transferring, I just explained to those non-IT professional customers to alleviate their concerns. That day's experience made me understand that as a woman in the automation field, I need to pay more effort to earn customers' trust. And after resolving that crisis, I think our discussions involved from troubleshooting to optimize user habits, implementing productivity features. Every challenge, I think, overcome becomes another step in the building credibility. And of course, I totally agree with you that one sentence, in the most situation, everybody wants to say, think about it before you do it. To women, I think for me, it's really common sense. But I don't think for women We need to be hesitate to express ourselves. And meanwhile, for women, if you want to be a kind of a position in our professional industry, I think everybody, not only women, need to learn more. Just like learning MBA, learning a new language, or learning a new programming language. So I just want to say, in the near future, I hope and there will be more and more female manager to win the management level in Comau or in big company. That's my wish.
Thank you. So this is a wish that I think many people shares. Thank you very much. And just to say something in Chinese, women tend never to be mama huhu. That means that we care about details. Just to summarize what you said. So now coming back again to Italy. So I think we have two representatives today of a minority just for today.
Just for today,
so we have two male colleagues, and thank you for joining, because as we said before, it's very important that there is an exchange, because when I was talking about mentorship, mentorship is always a two ways direction, because we need more men believing in women and vice versa, because if we have also powerful and successful women, women can become mentors of other men. So it's really something, is a continuous exchange. So this is something important. So Michele, thank you for joining us. And so we would like to know from your side, from your perspective, any comments from what we discussed up to now, and how do you see also this cooperation between men and women, especially on the technical side, because you are working in our battery area, that is one of the most important ones for the next future, because we know how batteries are changing our world as of today. So what can you say?
Thanks for being here and for this opportunity to talk with everybody. I'm part of the
Don't get used to that, because
No.
12
12 years old in Comau is the first time that I'm invited.
No, it's good.
And I'm part of the Global Competence Center in mobility. I think that electrification, especially in the last year, increased a little bit the opportunity to have integration and presence of women in our fields. Typically, the automation and the mechanical side, it's mechanical, electrical. The automation side, it's a strong female representative. Electrification, thanks that we need to find other competencies like chemical, like material scientists, that also in the university, the percentage of the women are a little bit higher, have the opportunity also for us to increase a little bit. If I take as example my department, I'm part of the extended Europe, so Italy, Romania, and India, and we are 55 resources, 8 are women, so we are around 15. I don't want to say it's higher, it's lower, for sure it's lower, but there are, I'm not here to say the reason why it's lower, because there are a lot of university, a lot of reasons we know, we discuss it now. What I want to say is that we, every day in our team, we try to leverage this 15% to be more competitive, because it's well known that also the women are more focused on the details. And in these fields where now we have a lot of competition, we have seen that the details make the difference. For example, last year, for Comau, we won 2 important projects in electrification in self-formation. And in both projects, the key aspect, one of the key aspects was the presence also of a mixed team. Okay, also in the execution, but also in the proposal. So it's a very important important aspect. I want also to leave one, let me say, one episode, because one of these 8 resources, I want to call resources because, again, it's for me, I'm young, I hope to be young.
Sure.
So for me,
Sure
it's not male, female. For me, it's normal, okay? And one of these, now it's in maternity leave, okay? And when was the time to tell me that they need to leave, I was divided in two. From one side, I was a little bit, I was sorry because I was losing an important key element of my team, okay? But again, I'm also sorry if everybody leave my team. So, but in the other side, I'm also a new daughter, because I have a daughter 3 years old. So I was very happy that they joined this. I want to say this because I think that the new generation also topics like the maternity leave that is still, I think, hard, because I have also seen my wife when are trying to follow some hiring path. In some cases, not Comau for sure, but in some cases was discriminated due to the fact they don't want to have family. Okay, and for me in 2025 it's completely no sense. Okay, it's unacceptable. So when she told me that was pregnant, for me it's a completely happy for this new
Good.
project. If we could,
Yes, for sure. As Pietro was saying, project management task. So thank you. So thank you very much. So after Michele, so we have Giulio again here from Italy. So Giulio, present yourself and talk about your experience and your ideas about what we discussed so far.
Okay, thank you so much, first of all, to giving me the chance to contribute to the topic. I think every day is a good day to celebrate women, in particular talented women, and in Comau we have plenty of them, also outside in all the organizations. So I think every opportunity is good to celebrate. About myself, I work in Comau since few years now, or almost 10 years. And in the last year, I joined as an AAS sales manager dealing with projects. So I've shifted a little bit my activity in Comau respect to the past. And now working on the proposal phase of complex projects, I am experienced much more the integration with other functions, other teams, and also with a lot of women professionals in Comau, from legal department, from contract management, engineering, product management. So we are really working together in order to achieve a better result. And I think that this difference of perspective, background, education, I don't have a technical background. So I'm very grateful to exchange with a lot of technical people in Comau. And I also take really advantage of a lot of experienced people in other sectors, like lawyers or contract management and product marketing and whatever. So basically, I think this is very positive. It's a very positive experience for me. Also because I come from a different experience as a salesman of product and as a salesman of product man, because normally sales is more related to men, even if in Comau we had experience of very talented saleswoman. So small hint for HR, don't forget that also women can be very good in sales positions. So I think this is something not to ignore. But when I was a salesman of products, of course, was a more dominated man world. And it's a little bit the philosophy of solitary wolf, hitting the target, chasing the opportunities and not working as a team. And honestly, as a team player, I prefer to be part of a community. Also, in the past, I had the chance to work a lot with the marketing team, for instance, for arranging a trade show, participating to create a case history at the customer site. And I really appreciate the contribution from our marketing team that was very patient. It was very skilled with problem-solving attitude in marketing, in trade show organization. Is very needed. So I think that was a very positive team, very positive experience, where the contribution of everyone was really giving an impact. So my wish for the future in this company is that we can continue to cooperate together, and that diversity, any kind of diversity, should be considered. So gender diversity is one, but also education diversity, background diversity should have to take in consideration culture. And I think Comau is in the right way. I come back from external companies, so I am very aware of that. The Comau is a very nice environment in this sense. There is a lot to do. I think gender gap, women in managerial position are still open topics where also Comau can do better. Also, all corporation world can do better. But I think we have all the right tools and we can grow together.
Thank you, Giulio. So that's a wrap. So I will leave the final word to Pietro again. So Pietro, what do you think about you've just heard? So some comment from your side.
Video. Yeah, so I'm trying to get a little bit closer. Well, thank you. A lot of I was taking some notes, and a lot of very interesting comments, and I'm going to start from Simona's dark of the future.
I will clarify my position.
I know it's not your, and I know how enthusiastic you are for what we are doing. So, but it's a fact. It's a fact that that's the starting point. It was the starting point. Probably it's getting better. Some of the speakers and some of the testimonies that we heard are at least giving the perspective that things are changing, but we need to recognize that we have a past to recover. When I visit last week, I was visiting our French plant. Been not long ago in China, here in the US. I mean, I can see women really making an impact in important positions outside the traditional roles of HR, finance, with all the respect for the finance people. I think looking around in this room, for instance, we have representatives from purchasing, from finance, from manufacturing, from engineering, and probably missing some others. And our diversity was that our head of HR is a man. So it's also, but so I see that it's happening, but it's not happening at the speed, and it's not yet at the level it should be. You need also to understand, I mean, this is a fact. I mean, we have to recover past. Just to give you the perspective of a 62 years old man, Italian man. When I grew up in middle school in Italy, there was one particular discipline that it was called applicazioni tecniche. It was kind of like learn to do things right on top of Italian, math and science or something like that. And so many years ago, when I was there, at one point in middle school, applicazioni tecniche was divided in two streams. So boys will learn how to do basic carpentry and these things, and girls will do cooking, how to learn how to do cloth alterations or something like that. And by the way, I'm a particular because my mother was a seamstress, so I grew up and I can do alteration very well because I was excited. So I had this probably would I would have fit better in the other section of the stuff. So this is a little bit like, I mean, the heritage that we all have. That is, and I liked when we were talking about mentoring. I think as a man, as a manager, we are making progresses in understanding that when we select people, gender is not a driver of the selection, right? I mean, it should be the reverse, actually, sometimes to feel more diversity. And this is another complicated matter, because obviously you also need to apply meritocracy. So, I mean, we all know that we need to start feeding the company from the hiring process so that we have equal choices, right? When I joined Chrysler in 2009, so I came here in the US, I became part of the diversity and inclusion committee, probably because I was an Italian, so I was creating some diversity inside. And I was, frankly, I mean, 15 years ago, diversity inclusion was not so common to talk about diversity in Italy, while instead in the US it already started. And I remember that my kind of approach was simply, well, if we need to fill, let's hire only women, and obviously that was creating some other issue. But no, we need to create those opportunities. But I think we are making progresses there. Where we are not making progresses is exactly what we were talking about mentoring. I think for a man it's still easier to say that when I'm hiring, I mean, with the same, without any kind of perceive, I mean, mindset of this is more a job for a man or woman. But when, as a man, we have a woman as a boss, that's probably something that as a man we are not yet necessarily very good at accepting the mentorship, right? So we have a lot to do as men to work on ourselves, and I think I'm glad that we have a couple of males here to talk about their experiences. Someone was, I think it was Silvia, probably talking about. I mean, I really hope that in future we will have in the near future. I'm eligible for retirement, so I don't have to. But we will have a woman as a CEO of Comau, also because that would be probably the sign that the company is doing very well. It is growing. It is, and it will give opportunities, even more opportunity for the future. We have an example here in automotive has been very male-driven industry historically. We have an example here in Michigan with Mary Barra, that is the CEO of GM, and she has been the CEO of GM for almost 10 years, I guess, very close. In the same time, Ford changed 3 times CEOs with 3 men. So it's a sign, at least, of something that is changing, and is a sign also of a company that, I mean, despite all the challenges that automotive has, had success and was able to grow. And by the way, is a good customer of ours, so we are very happy about that. So there are signs. I don't know how quickly. I mean, obviously now Simona put a big burden on us, because on me and everyone, because we need to find a way to close the gap of the century that we need to recover, to be sure that not only salaries today but also pensions tomorrow will be. There is one important element that was touched, that is parenting. Parenting is something, and we discussed at the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And by the way, helping and supporting parenthood is not just a support for women; it's a support for men also, right? And is I think is one of the focus that I would like to have, finding ways of supporting that. I think we have a little advantage because you know that there is a little bit before COVID and after COVID, right? And although I'm a firm believer on the importance of socialization and staying together in the office to be able to work together as a team and exchanging experiences, something that frankly, I mean, only having a video conference is probably not the most efficient way to do it, but we learn how to manage flexibility. Story of a parent when with family, with my wife. At that time, one daughter, we moved to the US 15 years ago. No grandparents, no friends, no relatives here. I mean, a snow day was a disaster. One of the kids with a cold was a disaster, right? So we learned something that is going to help families. And I think when you can help a family, you help a lot more the woman in the family, because there is an important budget that the families normally. So all these things I think are going the right direction. Is the speed enough? Probably not. I encourage everyone to let me say, to believe that change is possible and keeping on pushing in that direction, knowing that we will do everything possible to be sure that opportunities will be the same. And obviously, if any moment you feel that you don't have the same opportunity, pick up. I mean, that's very, very important. But today we have, for instance, only 3 women in the executive team out of 13. We have 13 people. It's not acceptable. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to fire 3, 4 tomorrow to replace them with more. But I'm sure that every time we have an opportunity to add executives in our management team, or we will definitely do, and we will have opportunities, and the opportunities are all around this table, are in the meeting there, are in the other people connected. So that is the task that we have: create a community of women larger and larger and larger, so that every time. I hope no woman ever felt to be discriminated at Comau. I'm sure it's happening from time to time, because there are those people like me that grew up thinking that there was differences, and maybe they haven't still processed that change. Little example again, in Italy we have this old-fashioned tradition to call people with the title. Right? So if you have studied engineering, you are engineer. If you have studied business, economy, or something else, you are a doctor. If you are a professor, you are a professor, etc. For some, I'm not an engineer, as everyone knows. For some reason, everyone thinks that because I had a career in automotive, I must be an engineer. My wife is an engineer. It's not only an engineer, it's an engineer. She has 2 degrees, 2 masters, and is doing a doctorate right now. If we meet someone in Italy, particularly, people will refer to us. Engineer Gorlier, Mrs. Pogliani, or mom, like you want, right? Then it doesn't work very well with my wife, by the way, rightly enough. But this is, we need to recognize, this is very often the starting point that we need to change. We need to make steps and steps and steps always in the right direction. By the way, my wife is an engineer for the Polytechnic of Torino, so represented here by Professor Bordato. Thank you very much. I think we have still time for some Q&A, or back to you, Stefania.
Yes, we are a little bit over time, but
Yeah, I just want to say something, just to clarify my position. I have two daughters, so I'm very positive, but I want to be also realistic about the fact that as women, we have been told since we are little, what I think is a big lie. And the lie is that if we believe in ourselves, if we have the power, if we have the right role model, if we have the right mentor, we can have it all, we can do whatever we want. That's not true. I think it's a lie, because we need to have a lot of external support in the workplace first, because we told about a hybrid work model. We need a lot of support in the family. We need a lot of support with laws and policies, because, for example, paternity leave need to be adopted, and has to be the same for women and for men, because otherwise, of course, when you hire someone and you are a small enterprise, of course, you tend to, you know, to have a man and not a woman, because you know that then you risk to have someone missing for 1 year or at least 5 months. So I'm a strong believer in the gender equality. I'm a strong believer in women, but still we need everyone helping us to not just to survive, but to thrive, because especially when we have a family, personally, I struggle a lot, and I spent years working in a survival mode, like trying to be a good enough mother, a good enough employee. So I'm optimistic, but please help us. So,
yes, thank you. Some question and answer, so I will keep some minutes to take some questions from also from US, so from the executive room, is if there is someone that has question, or from here.
No one? Anybody? Yeah. No one.
Any question? No one from Italy?
So what is the US doing in particular to improve the, I'll just say, diversity, not just for women, but just in general in our organization?
So the main thing, as I said, is, you know, you have two different ways to tackle diversity, every type of diversity. One is being sure that every time you, particularly when you talk about diversity in a higher position of responsibilities, is to be sure that every time you select for someone, you look for someone for a job, you don't apply any preconceived idea that one job. And I think that is happening already. I remember when I was a young employee of a company, that my boss was talking about the head of a plant, and it was a very good boss, by the way, very, but and I don't think he had any preconceived idea about the potential of women. But we were talking about a job for the head of a plant, and I remember saying, think about, there are even people that think that a woman can be the head of a plant, a factory. I know, I've been there, it's impossible. No. So I think that is happening. The real problem is how we feed the pool of candidates, everyone we have moved with a level of diversity that I would say is aligned to the society, right? Whether it is gender. So what do you do that? Well, you start the hiring process and the selection of candidates. And in the last few years, we've been hiring some people, obviously not as many as we would like. And you go around and you look for pools that are really representing society. It means selecting colleges where diversity is well represented, so that you create that selection process that allows more diversity in the pool of people and progressively growing. It's long. It's not something, because the only other way to fix the problem is to say, okay, I have to hire an engineer, it must be a woman. It doesn't work. Well, it can work. It's still something we have to, but obviously it creates, it's not what you want to do. And by the way, you fight also to find diversity in the pool of candidates because we need to be realistic. So only in the last few years, I think you find, for instance, the same level of candidates in some disciplines. And we always pick up a lot from mechanical engineers. I think what was said is important, that the transformation of the industry is also giving another opportunity, because now, I mean, there is a bigger variety of specialization. So that's the other point that we are discussing is, as I said, how we support parenthood. Because that is something that is going to support families and eventually also giving more opportunities. And so let's see what we can come out. We have been in a moment after COVID of transition. I mean, I think when we had a significant number of people in remote working, we were sort of not. We lost a little bit because I mean, most of the people are remote workers. So now I don't think any longer about now that we are mainly back in the office, it's important to go back and to strengthen those.
There's hope, I can tell you that, because I started in the Comau, while it was Pico then, almost 30 years ago.
Oh, you're a Pico.
I'm a Pico. I just had my 29-year anniversary last week. And I think the female percentage in the organization was less than 3%. And generally, and Jill can speak to this and Val too, I think most positions were administrative assistants, payroll, and some finance, but.
And by the way, Pico and Comau is just the diversity.
Yes, exactly.
Right? But no, I remember I came here in 2000, first time here in 2009 for a meeting when we were discussing about the Chrysler deal. And I remember going around the offices. I don't remember if it was, I think it was here, yeah. Yeah, in Ireland. And I remember that you didn't see a lot of women in the engineering suite. Other questions?
I, of course, will always ask questions. I was waiting. Just a question from your perspective, having been through different organizations and worked with different leaders. In your opinion, what is one of the most important aspects of elevating yourself and getting yourself, maybe noticed and in front of the right people? What is a skill that all these women can take away with them to say, looking back on myself, here are ways that I can push myself to maybe, become part of the table, become part of that leadership team?
Well, my instinct reply will be just be yourself.
Okay.
I think, it's always difficult because every time you try to answer to these questions, you risk to enter into some stereotype of women. No?
Sure.
I mean, the fact that women can be, they are resilient, that they are, because they deal with big problems at home and family. So the risk is that you immediately end up saying something that is wrong. I think that let's talk about how I think you can emerge and find a path of success in Comau, whether you are a woman or you are a man. Comau, I think we need to be realistic. Comau is a company with two sides. From one end, an incredible, strong recognition in the industry. Despite that we went through ups and downs, crisis, good financial, bad financials, etc. When you go around the world, and it's what I do, Comau has a great brand recognition, seen as an excellence, even from customers where we had kind of like, I mean, it's every customer, sometimes good programs, bad programs. And so it is recognized as an excellence in terms of automation solutions, engineering excellence. On the other hand, we also need to recognize that is a company that because of the history of being part of a big corporation, didn't embrace completely the challenges of the industry. We had this side of captive business where every year, I mean, some part of the business would come from Fiat and Fiat Chrysler. And so we lost a little bit, in some cases, agility and the competitiveness of what we do.
Sure.
So what we need to do as a company, and in this process, I think women must play an important role, is become a lot more competitive through benchmarking, through, let me say, criticizing what we do. So that's how, if we will succeed, and I'm sure we will, we will succeed because we challenge everything we have done in the 50 years. It doesn't mean that that was wrong or that we have to change it, but we challenge the way in which we design solutions, we challenge the way in which we run processes, we challenge the way in which we deal with customers, so we challenge the way in which we select our customers. The US, for instance, and Laerte knows very well, I mean, has been extremely slow, for instance, in thinking, well, maybe we should look outside automotive.
Sure.
Because here you have the disease of Detroit. You live next to Ford, GM, and Fiat Chrysler, now Stellantis, and you think that those customers will always come with a few hundred millions of business, etc. So it's been challenged. So changing is our game changer item to become. I think that women, and not only women, obviously, should, everyone at Comau, so at least I don't say anything wrong, should embrace that challenge of challenging the status quo, challenging what we have done, and every day thinking, how can I make a difference? How can I create a change? How can I move the company slightly forward and slightly, not necessarily just forward, but lateral, but outside of what we have done? That is not, I mean, will women be better at that? potentially you've dealt with a lot of things and that is undeniable, the fact that there is a big weight in the management of the family that historically been put on women. So maybe that's an asset that you have and that you can use. But I will never say women should do this. I mean, I think everyone at Comau should do this, and then let's see who succeeds. But I think you have all the elements and the DNA to make an impact, and hopefully you will do, because that will be probably the best ingredient for the success of.
Can I give some data? It's important because which is the presentation when we started to work here, 3%?
Less than 3%, yes.
Today we are around 14 here in US.
Yep.
Okay, that is a very strong growth, even because we have a lot of difficulties to find women in technical activities. This is one of the ones that we hired not for a long time. And then today, 32% of the people that we are hiring are women. And that is showing that we are being closer to the period than when we are going to have a lot of women growing in Comau. I think that this is a very good number.
Yes.
And then it's a challenge for everybody really to look for this kind of situation. But we are in the right path. I think that we have a lot to do, but we are really going to the right path.
I will say that is a promising number. And as I said, that's the only way that we have really to.
Okay, so other questions? I can take the final one, maybe from here, from Italy, if there is someone. Otherwise, we can close. No one. Everybody's shy. Okay. So basically, we finished today, and thank you for your time. Thanks for everyone that follow us for this. I personally think, but I think this is a share opinions, very interesting 1 hour and that together. I would like to thank all the Comau employees that actively participated to the discussion, and also our external guests, Silvia and Eugenia. You really thrive, your intervention. Thank you very much. Thank you, Simona, for joining me in this, and all the team that contributed, and Livio, that unfortunately cannot be with us live, but he contributed a lot. HR, whoever has given us an help. So have a good day and see you next year.